YouTube. Okay, let's get into it. The iPhone 14 Pro Max, 3 weeks later. Now, I waited this long before speaking on this phone because if you listen to the noise and the chatter, everyone just says that this 14 Pro Max is no different than this 13 Pro Max. It's not the truth. Although they look very similar, and from a exterior perspective, not much, but some things have changed, it's not the same device. Now, is it warrant you running out and hurrying up and upgrading your iPhone 13 Pro Max to this? More than likely not. But there are some changes on this device that I think makes it shine above this one. It's not groundbreaking and innovative, and you know the way you guys act in this tech space, I promise you guys act like there aren't other users out there who have had their phone for about 3 to 4 to 5 years and are looking for the latest, the 14 Pro Max. So let's talk about the 14 Pro Max. Put the 13 Pro Max off to the side in Sierra Blue, looking beautiful. Got my Apple Wallet on here. Let's remove that. Let's give you guys a clean visual of this golden 14 Pro Max. Beautifully designed. Yes, from a design perspective here, not much has changed from the previous, yet here, things have really changed. Things have gotten bigger and better in the camera sensor department, which to me, I'm all about it. All right, so let's take a moment to respect and just be, appreciative of Apple's iPhone quality when it comes to the 14 Pro Max, 13 Pro Max, whatever, however you want to do it. Just overall, just the iPhone has a great build quality. So from a design standpoint, I really do think this is a nice design. I appreciate it. I like it. Some people don't like the fingerprints on the side. I could care less, because when am I just staring at the side of my device? I hold it like this when I use it, or I might have it sitting down like this, face down, and all I see is the back. I want stainless steel on the side, so I'll deal with what comes with stainless steels, and that's this. At the end of the day, what really matters is using the device and how it performs, and I think that's where I like to focus. Now, on the front of this display, we got some more newness. I'm gonna dissect all of the new things. Let me just do a quick overview. As well as, if I were to open this, we have something else new here. Quite a few new things from the previous generation, but the reality and the most important thing that matters is user experience. Is it worth it? If you're upgrading from previous models before, are you gonna enjoy this device? Is it carrying on the legacy that this 13 Pro Max? This device right here, I don't think people realize how prolific and how profound this phone right here was. The battery life alone was top tier. And it also got a lot of users to switch or even peek at the Apple ecosystem from the other side. I've seen it in my comment section time and time again. This is the champ. But is there a new champ in the 14 Pro Max? No, not much has changed. They're very minor and innovative, but it's the polishing. It's the buffing out the things that they could make better from this prolific 13 Pro Max. Let's start here. Always on display. A lot of people in the Apple ecosystem have been waiting for this always on display for a very, very long time. Android has had it forever. I'll say it so you don't have to. But in reality, when I first got the always on display with my colored background and stuff, I didn't like it. Actually, I really didn't like it. I love the UI, I love the information. This was dope, but I didn't like how bright the background would stay. Actually, let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So, okay. There goes the iOS 16. Little, y'all see it. I'll keep it in there too. So as you can see right here, this was my previous always on display. Too many pixels on, too bright, too much going on. So I've seen a lot of weird hacks on how to get the black background and so forth. All of those hacks were tedious and unnecessary. Literally in Apple's setup, you can do a color and you can choose the black color and you can make it solid. So let me demonstrate that really quick. Okay, so I'm gonna do it as if I'm adding a new one really quick, and I'm gonna scroll at the top to color. It's there. You go to the black one. Oh, but CJ, it's not black. I know, because you have to swipe down here to solid. Simple as that. And now you have an all black always on display. So let me go back to my previously created one. I love this always on display now. I appreciate it. And let me tell you this, I did a test last night on battery drain. I went to bed with 48% and I woke up at 45%. A 3% battery drain from this always on display due to all of the pixels being turned off. Now, let me tell you why I can love this always on display now that we got color and brightness out of the way. Is this, the information. I have the top tech stocks at my visual at all times. And you know right now the market is real red. So you gotta keep your eye on it. Then I can see the battery charge on my Apple devices. Right now it's monitoring my AirPods Max. And then I have the weather, the low and the high and the current. Date, time, that's all I need. This at a glance is really nice. Now, yes, Apple, you have created a very good always on display as long as you used a dark background, in my opinion. Do what you like. If you like the brighter one, then so be it. It is what it is. Very good. So this right here is a +1 and a change. What is it? A luxury, not a necessity. All right, let's get into this other new feature, the dynamic island. Some people still are whining and complaining about it. I'm fine with it. No, it's not where it could be. There is just the circular, but here's why I'm fine with it. I love Face ID. I don't want to give up Face ID to just have a camera cut out like the S22 Ultra and so forth, because this one is actually a great security feature and it works extremely well. It now, with iOS 16, will work in lateral mode. So I no longer have to flip my device. I could be watching whatever, doing whatever, and I still can do Face ID from either direction. And it's extremely fast, extremely quick, and it's secure. That leads me to this, the dynamic island. As I said in the past, I thought it was clever of Apple to embrace it. How often do I interact with it? It's just anytime that I'm like on the phone and I'm still like, if I'm talking to someone, that's what I mean by on the phone, not like on social media. And, you know, I'm doing something on my phone, having that up there, navigation during those times. It's actually quite useful. And it's also like a nice sharp reminder of like what's going on in your background, and also very informative as to ways that you can monitor whatever that other action that is happening while you're navigating and using your device for whatever other reason you need. And I appreciate it. I think it adds to the overall iPhone 14 Pro Max's user experience in a positive manner. Love it or hate it, it's up to you. So now that we have the display out, let's talk about this display. This is that new 2000 nit bright display. I'm gonna be honest, when I put it out against the 13 Pro Max out in the sun in my versus video, I wasn't as blown away by it in comparison to another Apple device. And on S22 Ultra video, when I did the versus, I didn't have the highest brightness setting turned on, which let me say this about Samsung. If you're gonna advertise that this said device comes with 1750 nits of peak brightness, turn it on. Why should I have to turn that on? And then when you turn it on, it warns you, hey, that this can use more battery. Obviously, another topic for another day when I do my Samsung review, I won't go there now. The 2000 nit brightness is effective in direct sunlight, as I've shown you. I just wanted to give light to that comparison because it might have felt unfair for Samsung. But the 2000 nits in comparison to like the 13 Pro Max or the S22 Ultra is not like groundbreaking, you know what I mean? Those devices work pretty good in direct sunlight, but this one does work better. Is it worth me ditching my iPhone 13 Pro Max to go get this one? It's up to you, but it's not necessarily a necessity. It's just a nice viewer experience overall. So I do appreciate the new LTPO display with the always on goodness. It's a bravo for this display. P3 gamut, and I think DisplayMate yet again, has given the 14 Pro Max the best display of any smartphone, which I'm not surprised because we had that on the 13 Pro Max. So this phone is continuing the legacy of the 13 Pro Max in a new and improved, slightly new, but improved version. Okay, let's talk performance. It's an iPhone. It has the latest Apple A16 Bionic chip, SoC. It's fast. It performs extremely well. It's very efficient, which is the key to Apple's chips and their performance. So no hiccups from this device from a performance chip standpoint. There are iOS 16, which is software related, you know, little hiccups and bumps in the road at this moment. But as with all technology, and as we all know, they're constantly updating and they're buffing those out. And these phones just will get better and better and run smoother and smoother over time. So the iOS 16 has been causing a little ruckus, some ruffles in the community. But as they update it, the experience will get smoother. So I'll just keep you guys up to date on that because I like to do these long-term reviews. So this is the 3-week, do the month, 2-month, and so on. But from a just pure performance standpoint, it's doing really well. Efficiency, really well. We'll talk a little bit more in the efficient category when we get into battery because that's a topic of discussion. So you will want to hear the battery section on the 14 Pro Max because there are some slight differs from the 13 Pro Max that we need to get to the bottom of. Let's just do it now. Battery life. Let's talk about the battery life on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Battery life is always 100,000% subjective. I gotta always stress that because it is. You're a different user than I am. You use your device differently. You do different things. You have different notifications and different apps that you run on your device. But essentially, the iPhone 13 Pro Max was the battery king. So in the 14 Pro Max, we would just look to continue that legacy. In short, it does. But with iOS 16 in the beginning with the 14 Pro Max, I will not lie. I won't front. Like the first night or first couple days with the 14 Pro Max, I was like, wait a minute, this does not feel like 13 Pro Max battery. It has since gotten better. I remember in the beginning, I turned off always on display because I thought that was a battery drain. But now that we fixed the always on display to have the darker background, I might keep it on, but I'm gonna be honest, I will more than likely turn it off just because I like the peace of mind that I can get if I'm not always like staring at my smartphone device. I like to grind and work and stay focused. That's how I'm gonna get this content out to you guys in a timely manner. So in terms of battery life, 14 Pro Max, as I said, in short, it continues. I feel like with better and more iOS 16 updates, it'll just get better. But the 14 Pro Max battery is top tier. Better than any flagship outside of the 13 Pro Max that I've ever used as far as battery life goes. So there's no need to worry there. If you are looking at the Max, the Pro Max model strictly on battery life, notice you can purchase a 14 Pro Max with confidence, even a 13 Pro Max for that matter, if I'm being honest, as far as battery life goes. So I am ever so free and not tethered down to a charging cable when I'm using this device on a daily. I can be very lax about my charging, and that's what I appreciate about the battery life, which leads to the efficiency, which comes from the A16 Bionic chip and just the whole overall system. It's like a well-oiled machine. So it's getting great battery life, great performance, and it's just an ideal user experience for some or for those who choose to subject themselves to it. Now let's talk about cameras. Now, I'm gonna go outside real quick. Well, am I? Maybe. I might go outside. Oh, the beloved iPhone camera. When it comes to smartphones, it's my favorite camera on smartphones. I don't hide it. I tell you in this video, I'll tell you in other videos that out of all of the smartphones that I use, I will say this, the Pixel, outside of the Google Pixel, man, this is my favorite camera. I won't lie. The Google Pixel has magic. Now, the 14 Pro Max, this is the front-facing camera. This is the camera that you use to capture yourself because it's the one that you can see yourself and you can frame your shot and you can do your thing. I appreciate my skin tones being represented really well. Another thing that the Google Pixel does. And I appreciate just the quality, the detail, and the attention that Apple puts into their camera system. Now let's switch to the better or the newer camera, and that's the 48 megapixel wide. Let's check it out. Now, my only gripe with using this camera is I can't see myself like I could with a foldable device. I can't wait till the day that Apple decides to make foldable devices, but this is the new 48 megapixel wide camera. I love the natural background blur that you get out of this lens without even having to go into cinematic mode. I'll show you guys the new 4K cinematic mode. I'm not big on cinematic mode, but I think it may have gotten better. So I'll test that out and see. I'll do a quick video next. But I will say this, it's the most well-rounded in the balance of photo to video that I've seen. So let's check out that cinematic mode. Cinematic mode. All right, so now you can do 4K, 24 frames per second. Cinematic mode. I'm a 24 frames per second type of shooter. Some people prefer 30s. No big deal. Wherever you at, you land. But the cool thing about cinematic mode is that like in post-production, you can change like focus points and the amount of background blur and so forth. But my thing is mostly AI, like artificial intelligence. So that's just something that will get better over time. But in the beginning, I didn't like the artificial look. But when I look at this, I'll see what it looks like, and I'll leave my honest opinion probably like as like a little note on the screen, because I won't see this until I edit. So you guys let me know what you guys think about the iPhone 14 Pro Max's camera, and just tell me honestly, like even if you're team Samsung or team Pixel or whatever, like let's just be honest and truthful about these cameras, just from a totally objective, subjective, and truthful point of view. This has had a change and an improvement this year over last year's model. Whether or not that led to better clarity, better low light, which I think is proven without a doubt. Overall, it is an improvement physically and without a doubt an improvement visually. I mean, Apple always has a consistent camera, better skin tones than the competition, and it just offers like an ideal user experience when it comes to cameras. So that about wraps up the truth of how I honestly feel about the 14 Pro Max cameras. They're really good, they're really great, very consistent. Not the total package, because you know, no camera on any smartphone is, but it's the closest thing. Now, we come into the most important category that I like to speak to when it comes to these reviews, and that's user experience. That's what matters most. And as someone who's been a long time tech enthusiast, smartphone user, as you can see, I'm using them year after year, time after time. I will pull out the whole Apple collection, but we won't waste your time. Maybe I'll put a B-roll clip up. Nevertheless, I've been using Apple, Samsung products, Google Pixels, Nexus, so on. The list goes on way back. But user experience is what matters most. That's like where I like to focus and kind of like get my interpretation of said device. That's why I used it for 3 weeks before actually doing a review in terms of the 14 Pro Max. Now, coming from the 13 Pro Max, for those users who may have a 13 Pro Max and you're wondering, are you missing out? You may have seen some of those key features that are like tempting for you. Listen, here's how you have to assess it. Number one, follow your gut. Number two, be like realistic. You know what I mean? Like, be truthful to your budget. Be truthful to where you are. Be truthful to your necessities when it comes to, you know, making those type of upgrade decisions. Because year over year, not much change, but maybe enough change for you. And you got to be confident in that and ignore the noise. You're going to have people saying, oh, it's the same phone, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? If you like it and you want it and you can't afford it, get it. Simple as that. Now, in the terms of user experience for my people coming from older generations, like iPhone 11 Pros, which my dad just did that, iPhone 11 Pro into the 14 Pro Max, iPhone 12s. You might be in a 12 Pro or a 12 Pro Max or just a regular 12 and so forth, and you're considering the 14 Pro Max. Listen, I think it is an upgrade, especially from the 11 and anything before that, 100,000%, because now you're getting the new redesign and so forth. So you're going to feel that upgrade. Let's get into like my total conclusion as far as user experience goes when it gets to this 14 Pro Max. I'll say this. I genuinely enjoy this smartphone from a day-to-day user standpoint. The beginning, you know, like any other smartphone release, until they like drop a few upgrades and work out a few kinks, which there's still some more kinks to be worked out. The beginning was a little rocky, a little rough, but since I have seen the progression and I've used this device and I feel at home. As a previous 13 Pro Max user jumping into the 14 Pro Max, I feel at home because the 13 Pro Max set the bar high. And in order to at least level with that or go beyond that, you gotta do something. And I will say this, Apple did something. It may not be a lot, it may not be a ton, but they did do something. These cameras, the improvement, always on display. It is so nice to have this on Apple, and Apple, in their true fashion, did it well. The dynamic island, love it or hate it, I like it. I appreciate it. I so much would rather have this over the notch. Hold on, let me get a better representation of the notch. Notch or pill? I'm taking a pill, baby. And no, I ain't taking no, crazy, relax. Brighter display, that's arguably just, I feel like the user experience on this device has felt good. It's clean, it's smooth, it's like progressive in the right way. It's polished in a good way. And you know, there are more things, of course, as any tech enthusiast that I would like to see moving forward. USB-C. One cable for everything. That's the convenience. I mean, Apple is all about convenience, so give us convenience. I get it. I understand it's a business. They're very heavily invested in lightning cables and things and accessories. I understand. But as a user, in my user experience, USB-C would be so much nicer. That aside, like, this thing is clean, this thing is crispy, this thing is solid. I know people have their interpretations of Apple, people have their hate and their disgust. Did you know that Apple products, like we in the American world, or in the Americas and the West world, we got it good because we get these products at a fair price. When they get shipped out into the world, they are hiked up and you know what, they cost a ton. So I can understand why in the tech world, a lot of people complain about the price point. You're not telling the full story. It's bigger than that. It's because of the imports and so forth. So Apple has been very fair in the pricing. They've been keeping it very like even kill for like years now. And I think that's just due to the way that they run their system and the way that they control and manufacture their devices. It's a smarter way. You know, they're probably able to keep costs in an ideal way by keeping the design very familiar. This is business at the end of the day. But what really matters most outside of it being business is, did I have a good user experience? And the answer is yes. Oh, and I think you will too. So hit the subscribe button and smash the bell next to the subscribe button so that you don't miss the videos, because just hitting subscribe nowadays is not enough. You have to turn on the bell or you can miss these brutally honest tech takes. And you wouldn't want that to happen.